Hi everyone, I'm doing my John Maxwell now, and for today I'm using the book Leadership. So I'm on chapter 9 of this book, and it's talking about team uniformity to team diversity, the improvement shift. Our differences can make a positive difference. And basically John Maxwell has started this chapter saying that he grew up in Circleville, Ohio. It's in the middle of the country of America, and his family were lower middle class. There was nothing cutting edge about the church he grew up in. They were conservative and old-fashioned. Even the theological and ministry training that he received in Circleville emphasized that Christians should separate themselves from the culture of society in some ways. And the Bible tells us that we are in the world, but we are not of the world. And then he goes on to say that they set themselves apart and were comfortable spending all their time with people like them. His early days as pastor were equally vanilla. The church filled with farmers and their families. They were good-hearted, hard-working, salt-of-the-earth types of people, but they were not diverse nor forward-looking. While he was at church, NASA put the first man on the moon. The people in his church were not convinced that it had actually happened. They thought it was staged. And many believed that it was a hoax that had been staged in the desert of the American West, with trampoline placed underground and covered with sand. That's what they really thought. So I guess it was pretty amazing. A lot of people, even when I see those videos and things later, they're like, yeah, right, how did they film that landing on the moon? Like, how did they actually film that coming down? Because if nobody went to the moon, how did they film it? Because they filmed that landing, so how did they film it? How did they put the camera out there? So there were a lot of questions. But I think for those of us who grew up in Zimbabwe, we also faced that. You know, a lot of the churches were made up mainly of the whites. You at different times you could go to mass, and to be forward-looking, you had to challenge the culture of the day. So those of us who grew up after independence were actually lucky, because we got to go to church with people of all backgrounds, all races. But again, we had to push for that. I mean, it wasn't something that was done easily. It wasn't something that the whites of the day wanted. You know, there was a segregation. There was a lot of what's happening now, where you can't even afford a house. You can't afford your food. And it's like it's for those people. But what has happened in the world since then is that it's not just happening to Indians. It's not just happening to blacks or whites. It's happening to everybody. Because the world came up to a stage where all of us could afford homes, get at least a basic education, travel a little bit. And when they put in the Great Recession hit because of the corruption in the banks, and the global financial system, it's one. So if there's corruption here, it's going to affect the rest of the world. And so now it's affecting everyone. But when we think about diversity, when we think about perspectives, we were lucky in that way, that we grew up in a country like Rhodesia, present-day Zimbabwe, because we went to school with people of all faiths, all religions, all backgrounds, and everyone was welcome in the church. Nobody was stopped, just like today. Hindus could come into the church, Muslims could come into the church. Anybody can come. If they want to honor the Lord, if they want to praise the Lord, anybody comes. There's a lot of women that come to my church that are not Catholic. Father doesn't stop them. The only thing that the priests do say, which is right, is that they shouldn't get Holy Communion, because you have to be initiated into the church and to believe in that. So when you look at the John Maxwell teaching and you look at some of these things, we also have to remember that we didn't come to the Maxwell leadership team from the time that Mr. Maxwell came into it, or Papa John as they call him. He came from a very different culture where the whites, and even today, the whites are mainly the elite. Yes, you do have some percentage of Indians that are wealthy and blacks and coloreds, but mainly it's the whites that control the wealth, that control the decision making, and that control who gets put into what jobs. So it's important for us who grew up in a different time to remember that we were blessed, because we were blessed with diversity. We didn't grow up in a vanilla culture. Sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, add some color to your resume. But actually, the companies need to add some color. You don't need to add color to your resume. And it's important to remember that, because their bubble burst, right? When the human rights movement took place, similar to today, many of us got summoned to police stations. Many people even went to jail in America and even in Zimbabwe and other places in the world. Even the music, they couldn't stop. So they had to let the music go, because what were they going to do, ban the music? And even if they tried to ban it, it was so good, they had to leave it, because they couldn't monopolize the music industry. They couldn't control at that time what music was listened to and where it was. Like now on Facebook, because of our government, you can't post the news. So many priests, many of us who are leaders, we copy and paste the news, or we find ways that we can share it through videos or other things like that. But it wasn't controlled the way it is now through a state-owned media like CBC. And even the things that happen in the church, you won't find, except for Pope Francis, you won't find people saying no. We don't want your vaccines, and we want our churches open, and I'm going to walk up to that Vatican by myself, even if nobody else comes with me. I'm going to be defiant and I'm going to go. You just won't find people doing that, because they'll eliminate your jobs, they'll put you in jail, they'll do what Justin Trudeau told us he would do, and he did it. We were not allowed to go to sporting events, we were not allowed to travel, we were made to feel like we're idiots and we can't make our own decisions about our health care. We were told that, oh, you have to take this vaccine because it's not just for your good, it's the good of everybody else around you. And now all the information's coming out from the US that actually even the companies themselves that made the vaccines are saying they were not safe. So when they talk about diversity and they talk about, oh, you need to be less vanilla, they need to look at themselves first, because many of us grew up with people who were challenging the norms of the day, like Nelson Mandela, and even the Rhodesian government to some extent. Yeah, they still protected the whites. Ian Smith used to say, I'm never going to let a black majority come in, and I'm never going to let them have the majority of the seats in the government. He used to say that. So, they were challenging, people were challenging that mindset, because they were like, well, we also want to have a say, we also want to vote, we also want to have the same opportunities as your children. And so that's important when you think about that and you think about getting outside of that bubble. Because the same thing happens here today. At Teleperformance, they don't even give wage increases. They don't give them. I had to fight to get a wage increase, and that was after maybe 2 or 3 years, they gave me 50 cents wage increase. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you guys expect us to pay for our internet, our phone, you expect us to pay for transit and everything else, and after 2 years in a multi-billion-dollar company, you're giving us 50 cents? And when I told my mother, she laughed. I said to her, "You're laughing, I'm not joking." She thought I was joking. She said, you're joking. I said to her, "No, I'm not joking. Every time I tell you something, you laugh. You think I'm joking." "Oh, I'm not joking." Our parents should phone Teleperformance and ask them, how much wage increases do you give our sons and daughters? Because they're coming home telling us stories that you don't give wage increases. And when you do give, it's like after 2 years, and even then it's like 25 cents or 50 cents. Because people think I'm joking. I'm not joking. That's what they do here. And when I tell people there's slavery in Canada, they don't believe me until the UN gets involved, and then the UN publishes reports and other people publish reports, and then they see it. There is. Why do you think Mark Carney took his headquarters to America? Because there he knows they'll just pay a fine if they have to, and they'll carry on. TD didn't even get fined here in Canada for what they did. Nothing happens to them. They just carry on. Credit Suisse was the only company that got closed. It was the only one, the only bank that got closed, because the rot was too much and it was too deep. It would have collapsed the banking system. And I was the one who was tweeting them. My mother doesn't believe me. I was tweeting to them saying, you need to close this bank. You need to close it. They don't even give you references after they promise them to you. They should do the same thing with TD, with Teleperformance. They should do the same thing. Because we don't deserve it. The people who are good, the people who work hard, the people who put in the hours, who are willing to take on extra shifts, who are willing to work graveyard shifts, we never get the breaks. We never get the good paid jobs. We never get the exceptions. We never get it. Even on the one campaign, we never get it. Never. You ask for help, the answer is always no. Oh, but they love you. Yeah, sure, they love me, but what? That love is not proven in action. So, it's important to remember that. But I just wanted to touch on that one point. I'm still reading the book, and then I'll do other sections and other points, but it's to show that when you have diverse thinking on your team, when you have diverse people that you can talk to and that you can connect with, they're able to help you see things from a different perspective. Like with me, I really thought there was something wrong with me when I went through menopause. I thought, you know what, there must be something wrong with you. Like, you're waking up sweating in the night, you have all these different problems coming up. And then I was talking to my doctor, he's like, no, this is part of menopause. I'm like, yeah, I'm putting on weight. He's like, oh, it's all part of menopause, don't worry too much. But I guess I put on weight also because of working the night shifts, and then your body clock changes and your metabolism changes. And when you're poor, what are you going to eat? You're going to eat more starchy foods, right? You're going to eat rice and breads and potatoes, things that are going to fill you up. So that's also part of it. But if you don't believe me, you should phone Teleperformance and ask them, how much wage increase did you give Belinda? They'll tell you. And then after that, everybody started complaining, not just me. So they said, okay, we're going to give you wage increases now. Then after another 2 years, we'll give you $1. Then after another 2 years, we'll give you another $1. And then now they terminated my position. They told me, if you come back, if we hire you, we're going to start you from scratch. So all that tenure is lost. I won't even get that. Even if I stay there for another 5 years, I'll have to work another 5 years to get $1. So I was like, no, you guys don't want me in this company. So expanding your network, it does require humility, because people are going to see things from a different perspective. The thing that I I say is that if you travel, that's also a good way to gain humility. Because when you travel, you see different cultures, you get to experience different languages, you get to experience how different people live. And that also requires humility, because when you stay in your own country, you know everything. You know how things work, you know like what the rules are, but how things actually get done. You understand the cultural nuances. But when you travel, you have to keep an open mind because you don't know. And you have to get used to how things are done in those countries when you leave your home country. And expanding your network, you have to do it intentionally, because you are letting people in and you're letting others in who you don't know. You don't know how they think. You don't know what their family backgrounds are like. You don't know. You can go from Zimbabwe to South Africa and the cultures are very, very different. So it does need that, and it also requires energy. Like when I went to the church and when I talk to Father, sometimes he tells people in the parish and they're like, oh, she didn't say anything to us, because I don't. Normally I just tell the priests and whatever I need to tell them and then I leave. Unless it's something that's impacting where I have a responsibility or I have something that I need to meet, I don't tell people everything. I just tell them what they need to know. If I can't stay for the rosary or if I can't lead something, then I tell them. But there's a purpose behind it. So it requires energy and it requires being intentional about what you are doing. And it does require love, because you have to be open to that. You have to be open to what new and what good could come through that. And we're not all the same. People come with different talents, different perspectives, different backgrounds. But even talking to my friend Mita, who's now passed away, and talking to her about menopause, and you get that confirmation that, yeah, you know what, it's normal. Getting night sweats, feeling lethargic, putting on weight, all these things. And I never knew what to expect. And my doctor told me, because I told him after my menopause started and my period stopped, I said to him, like, is this normal? And he's like, yes, it's normal. So part of aging and that is also weight gain. It doesn't mean I don't make healthy choices. When I can, I buy the best food I can. I try not to eat carbohydrates too much. I exercise every day. But still, the body changes and, it's part of life. So having good friends and expanding that circle of friendship is important, because different cultures and countries are different. If I go from here to England, I'm back in my skin. If I go back to Zimbabwe, I'm comfortable. But here, even till today, it depends, like which priest is on the altar, who's leading, what their culture is that they come from. It's different. So it requires you to keep open, to pay attention to what's happening around you. And it requires time. But again, I would encourage immigrants who are coming to Canada like I did, don't think that you don't bring anything to the table, because that's how they make you feel. They make you feel like, oh, you don't have Canadian experience, you don't have anything, you can't learn. Like, we told you this and you don't understand. Well, if they come to our countries, we don't treat them like that. So it's important to remember that we do bring good things to the table. We do bring good things to our homes, to our communities. And if they didn't want us, they bring you in and then they make you crawl. That's what they do. So if they didn't want us, they shouldn't have brought us here in the first place, because they make it so hard to get in. You have to have so many points to even just get into Canada. And then to even get a job is so difficult, they might as well not have brought you. Meanwhile, illegal immigrants are coming in, they're getting lost in the system, they're working under the table, and people like me are sitting at home and we can't get jobs. So we also have to speak up, and we have to let people know what's happening to us. Because believe you me, this has been going on since I came to Canada. It's been going on since 2002. Oh, you don't have Canadian experience. Oh, you're overqualified. There's nothing like that. Every country in the world wants their people to be qualified, wants them to have good skills, wants them to be able to think critically. That's an excuse for not giving you a job. It's an excuse. Because if you didn't have those degrees and qualifications, they still wouldn't hire you, because they'd say, oh, you're underqualified. And racism also plays into it. So we have to remember that in our teams, that it's about perspective too. And we have to value ourselves and what we are bringing to the table. Because we didn't grow up in vanilla cultures. Some of us grew up very poor, yes, but we educated ourselves, and we come from respectable families. We don't come from families where we send messages to people saying that we are to have anal sex with them until they bleed and they can't sit down. That is very disgusting in my culture in Zimbabwe, and it's inappropriate. So I'll leave you with that. I'm going to carry on doing my reading. And I got up very early today. I got up at like 3:30 in the morning. So I'm going to try to sleep later, but I went to sleep early, so I had my 7 hours sleep. And it's nice to get up early. It's quiet. You can do your reading. You can do your reflections. So I don't mind getting up early. I like it.